Good afternoon, everyone. So today, I want to talk about new fusion between medicine and AI. So let me start my presentation. About 14 years ago, at the time of 30th anniversary of SoftBank Group, and that we announced a new 30-year vision. And that time also just started the Twitter. And that Twitter that I used and asked people, what is the saddest things in life? And actually, I got about 10,000 reply in a day. And as a result, death, loneliness, despair is the saddest thing in life. And the cause of death in Japan here, back then in 2010, biggest cause of death was cancer. And 13 years later, 14 years later, as of today, biggest cause of death stays the same, cancer. Many Japanese, and about half of those cause of death are cancers now. Unfortunately, my father passed away last year. Cause of death was cancer. He's been doing very well and doing the medical check every almost month and doing the whole body check every 6 months. And just immediately before the medical check, he was okay. But when he feels a little bit uneasy, then that he was found that he was a lung cancer and all over the places of his body, and I was crying every day. The very last days of my father was really difficult. And I don't want you, your family, your friends to do the same experience. Actually, it is happening here and there, and we want to reduce such sadness. And AI is now developing, and AI, is it the great things for human being, or is it the not great things about human being? And in looking at the 14 years of technology advancement, especially these days, AI is developing dramatically. For example, total amount of data in 14 years dramatically increasing. CPU, GPU, processing power also accelerate tremendously. Generative AI, especially ChatGPT, last year, was used by many people. I myself is also the heavy user of ChatGPT, and it is great. GPT-4 now is already passing medical doctor exam in United States, and about 60% is the kind of a threshold for passing the medical exam, and 87% GPT-4 is already achieving for passing the medical exam. In this area, in this aspect, GPT-4 is already smarter than human being, or average human being, I would say, because Japanese average human being cannot pass a medical test. I cannot pass a medical test. And in that agenda, in that theme, GPT-4 AI is already exceeding human beings' level. But this is just the beginning. And now, AI becoming AGI to ASI, and I will talk about that in later slides. And when that time comes, that will be a big change. So we want to reduce the sorrows to maybe not zero, but to reduce as much as possible. That's the kind of my feeling, our feeling. And here we have medical AGI. And we were looking for many companies, and I searched for it in US. We found one, Tempus. And Tempus actually utilizing AI to support the cancer treatment, and about 2,000 hospitals in United States that the service has been provided by Tempus. And this gathering with them, we would like to establish a joint venture in Japan. That is about the announcement today. And the company name is Tempus.
What is Tempus like? Eric established Tempus 8 years ago. This month, the company was listed in NASDAQ in the US. 600 billion, 700 billion yen. I think a market cap. Revenue is growing rapidly. I believe it's going to be 100 billion yen pretty soon. They're providing 3 products: genomic testing, medical data aggregation and analysis, and AI insights and therapy selection. So recommendations of the therapy and treatment are given to doctors on real time. So those are the product offerings that Tempus is providing. What is cancer? There are normal cells in human body, and all of a sudden, cells get mutated. Then cancer cells are generated. What is cancer? In a word, genetic mutation from normal cells to cancer cells. So the mistake of the DNA copy, if I may, is leading to a cancer. And by DNA, maybe we can find the treatment for the cancer. Let's say lung cancer patients are there. Combination of genes, if there are different combinations, that could be a result of a mutation. Millions of patterns are there. Even within the same lung cancer, there are different kinds of mutations. So the most advanced genomic treatment is to analyze the mutation and patterns of mutation. By using AI, if you can look at a characteristic of a cancer, that could be helpful. That's exactly what Tempus is doing. Tempus not only does genomic testing and the test results, but also they have a data of clinical data, genomic data, pathology data, image data. Different kinds of data or multimodal data is what Tempus is using for analysis, and then provide recommendations of most optimal treatment to different patients. Of course, decisions should be made by doctors and patients' family, but the data based upon informed consent is provided by Tempus to doctors and patients. In fact, data from the 2,000 hospitals are stored in a database. EMR is fragmented. It's difficult and almost impossible to have a standardized data because different hospitals have different systems. It's difficult or almost impossible to change the different systems. So currently available EMR can be used without burden on hospitals and patients. And Tempus provides adapter so that currently available EMR can be stored in Tempus, and the Tempus using the center repository, the data is analyzed. And of course, paying attention to privacy, there is a filter in place to depersonalize the data. Then depersonalized data is analyzed, and the analyzed data will be sent back to hospitals at real time. And based upon the data sent back to hospitals, the hospitals can utilize the data for development and research or even therapy. So that is the service proposition only Tempus can provide. And about 300 billion yen is invested. It's been 8 years since inception, and they have invested in the system creation and the repository position. And like I said earlier, the company got listed in NASDAQ. I think it was 2 weeks ago. With that technology, with that mechanism, and with the personalized data analyzed in the States can be utilized as an asset in Japan. With AI, most optimal therapy selections, ABC, can be recommended by Tempus. And let's say the drug C can prolong life longer than others, but there might be some side effects. And drug A is like that, and drug B is like that. So depending on and looking at the scientific data, then doctors can make a decision based on informed consent with the patients. So Tempus can provide data and insights to doctors and hospitals for better decision. Whatever under development can be accessible to hospitals and doctors because based upon informed consent, Tempus can provide opportunity for doctors to get an access to drugs or treatment under development. In the States, like I said, provide genetic testing services and next generation genomic testing and clinical data delivers 96% of patients presented with optimal treatment options. At least patients gone through Tempus genetic testing, most optimal treatment options are presented to those patients. On U.S. average, it's only 27% in the U.S. Even with genetic analysis, in the States, only 27% of patients were presented with optimal treatment options. But in the case of Tempus, thanks to multimodal data, and with that matching capability, 96% of patients were presented with optimal treatment options, which is really revolutionary. So 7.7 million cancer patients, about half of all cancer patients in the U.S. The records of those patients are now what Tempus has. And the 2,000 hospitals are the number of hospitals are with the Tempus network. Even different kinds of systems, thanks to the adapter, 1 million image data, 0.97 million pathology data, and 0.22 million DNA and RNA data. 96% of patients were presented with the most optimal option, thanks to that capability of Tempus. This slide shows competitive comparison. scientifically with AI based upon data. In the States, it's really revolutionary. Only 20% of patients were presented with the most optimal option, like I said earlier. And most hospitals have EMR, but the systems are not integrated. And 65% of academic hospitals and 50% of oncologists use Tempus. By the way, AI-enabled data analysis doesn't mean extra cost to hospitals or extra cost to doctors, extra burden, zero. Why? Because, like I said, currently available EMR can be used thanks to the adapter provided by Tempus. No cost, no burden. So everything is good. So how does Tempus make money? Because of the vast amount of data, the data is the asset that can be utilized by drug companies for their development purpose or research purpose. And by providing the data to those medical drug companies, they can get money. So in fact, that's good for drug manufacturers because they can save time for drug development. And it costs them money and time for drug discovery and drug development. But with Tempus, they can save cost by 20%, 30%. Even paying money to Tempus, drug companies use Tempus data for their development purpose, which is great for both Tempus and the drug companies. Tempus CEO Eric Lefkowski, he was supposed to be with me today, but we had a COVID test. And in the morning, we found out Eric was positive. So he went back to hotel. But he is good shape. So he's going to join us remotely. But let me share with you a short video before introducing Eric.
We all know how disorienting it can be when you're diagnosed with a disease, either your own or that of someone you love. It's like walking in a forest where the way feels lost. Seas of trial and error, oceans of opinion. But what if there was a different, clearer path? One forged by the millions who have come before. Today, an unprecedented amount of data is being contributed in near real time by physicians, researchers, and patients around the world. Tempus is at the center of this movement. We have developed novel technology that collects, structures, and analyzes vast amounts of data. Clinical data sourced from electronic healthcare records, imaging data from pathology slides and radiology scans, molecular data generated at a scale that was unimaginable just a few short years ago. It's our mission to make all of this data accessible and useful. Merged with the power of AI, we have developed a platform that is designed to accelerate the discovery of novel targets, predict the effectiveness of treatments, identify life-saving clinical trials, even diagnose disease earlier. This groundbreaking technology is being used today by thousands of physicians in oncology, cardiology, neurology, and other disease areas. But this is just the beginning. Through AI-enabled diagnostics, we hope to route every individual to their own unique and optimal therapy and help shape the treatments of tomorrow. Imagine a world devoid of the diseases that have plagued us for millennia. Imagine prolonged life expectancy. Imagine the end of trial and error. This is data-driven precision medicine. This is the future of healthcare. This is Tempus.
Eric, go ahead.
Thank you, Masa. Thank you. I'm sorry
I can't be there in person with all of you. Out of an abundance of caution, I'm staying here. But I did want to quickly introduce Tempus. I started the company about 8.5 years ago after my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I was perplexed at how little data was a part of her care. And so I got focused at that time on the idea that the underlying technologies that were evolving could be harnessed to basically contextualize diagnostics, because at this moment in time, we can now structure and harmonize vast amounts of data that historically has been siloed and unstructured, which is what's necessary to bring any form of artificial intelligence to healthcare. To do that, all of these background technologies, many of which SoftBank plays a leading role in worldwide, like low-cost cloud computing and molecular profiling, all kinds of imaging technologies, are necessary in order to structure and harmonize clinical data, which is at the heart of understanding what drugs people are taking and how they're responding to those drugs. We got focused on the idea that artificial intelligence would come to healthcare first through diagnostics. Diagnostics sit at the heart of almost every major decision that a doctor makes. When a patient gets sick, they go see a doctor who orders a blood test or a CAT scan or an MRI or maybe a genomic test, and then they make a decision how to treat that patient. And we thought that if we could contextualize those diagnostics and basically personalize them for the patient for whom they were ordered, we could infuse the benefits of artificial intelligence into the healthcare system, both in the US and around the world. Here's a short video.
Open Samantha Johnson's report.
Please select from the following complete reports found for Samantha Johnson.
Can you confirm her probable BRCA2 germline mutation?
In order to bring those kind of technologies to the market, you have to collect vast amounts of multimodal data and put it in one place. You can't have just a little bit of the data that a patient needs. You have to have all the data. You have to have the clinical data, the imaging data, and often the molecular data. And so Tempus has built a platform, an operating system, to put all that data in one place so that physicians can make data-driven decisions, and life science companies, in particular biotechnology companies and pharmaceutical companies, can do better research and make better drugs. Our database, if you forward one, in just a few short years has become multiple times larger than any public data set we know of. In the United States, there's a data set called the Cancer Genome Atlas. And as you can see here, in just a few short years, Tempus's database has become 50 times larger. We have 7.7 million patients that we have brought in. We've de-identified roughly 6 million of those. And a significant percentage has imaging data, samples that we've sequenced. And at the very bottom of the funnel is this incredibly rich multimodal data set that can be used to help drug companies be more efficient. We're also focused on helping doctors be more efficient. We want our tests to be super smart. We want to make sure that every decision a doctor makes is the right decision. We want to help good doctors become great doctors and great doctors become superhuman. And so we embed AI and the benefits of big data into every report we generate. Not just to help patients get on the right therapy, but also to find a clinical trial that might be beneficial to them, which Ryan will talk about in a few minutes. And behind this technology, we have created this self-learning system, and that's the key to any form of artificial intelligence. The system has to learn and get smarter. And so we built a system, for example, where we can track every drug that patients are taking when they have similarly situated patients. And then we can see how those patients did, so that when a physician makes a recommendation, they know that people just like the patient that they're talking to have done very well when they took that drug or this drug. And so we help take the guesswork out of treating cancer patients. We also take all of this data and make it available both to our hospital partners and to life science companies. We want to make sure the entire system is as efficient as it can be. We hate the idea of wasting money. We don't want pharmaceutical companies to spend a huge amount of money, I think roughly 150 billion yen, and then have a failed drug. We don't want it to take 10 years. We want to shave 2 or 3 years off that cycle. We want to shave 20 or 30% off the cost. And the only way to do that is to put data in the hands of everyone who's doing research, whether it be discovery or development. Up until now, we've been focused on just the US, and we're excited today to announce our partnership with SoftBank, who's the ideal partner to bring Tempus to the Japanese market, which happens to be the ideal market. There's no reason that Japan should not lead the entire world in terms of precision medicine. You have incredible hospitals, incredibly talented people, and if we can help bring the tools that are needed for artificial intelligence to make its way throughout the system, you can lead in this category in a way that is absolutely unimaginable. And we're excited to start that journey. But it isn't just enough to have lots of data. You have to also create a sustainable business model around that. And we've broken our business model into 3 parts. We sequence patients and make sure that they have the necessary molecular data and insights they need to get the right therapy, which Masa talked about a few minutes ago. We also then retain large amounts of de-identified data that's appropriately consented, that can be used by drug companies and academic researchers to make sure that they're making the best drugs possible or coming up with novel breakthroughs. And then finally, we work on a series of AI applications that we can deploy in real time in the clinic to close care gaps and to make sure that every patient is routed to the most optimal therapeutic path, which Ryan will now discuss.
All right, thank you, Eric.
それではそれぞれのビジネスを個別に説明していきたいと思います。まずは遺伝子検査。
How do we produce the genomic data or the multi-omic data on each individual patient case that we're analyzing to produce actionable results for physicians and for their patients? And so with our testing approach, we've actually published on this, where by organizing the clinical history and providing broad genomic profiling, we can provide more actionable results than alternative approaches. And so when you think about our testing menu, it isn't just enough to have one test, but to have a variety of different test options for patients, not just a solid tumor test, but we also have a liquid biopsy as well. And we recently launched a new test called XM, which is our minimum residual disease test, to capture other parts of the patient journey. And so we announced this data at ASCO a few months ago. And one of the things that XM provides is that it allows us to think about monitoring disease in the early stages after surgery, but also to help with treatment selection with our variety of different assays that you can see in the middle of this page. But after those treatments are selected, the job isn't over. We really need to equip physicians with the necessary data to monitor and to follow those patients longitudinally to track how are they responding to those various targeted treatments or those immunotherapies over time so that we can capture the clinical outcomes and organize that data for them as well. And so by providing that suite of services, we can now collect the necessary multimodal data that can also unlock new sort of research discoveries and new opportunities for cancer patients that have severe unmet need. And so if we think about sort of our data business, it's not enough to just think about the treatments of today, but how are we going to develop and empower the drug companies that are developing the treatments of tomorrow? And so we have focused a lot of time and effort on leveraging de-identified data sets at true scale and the tooling necessary to really accelerate research for addressing these unmet needs that we see in everyday cancer care. And so some of the tooling that we provide can really compress and accelerate the time to get to insight, whether those insights are coming from preclinical discovery, whether you're thinking about target populations or sub-diseases within a cancer population, but also to make sure that the trials that we're designing are actually going to improve the success rates and get to market so we can address that unmet need. And so providing the tooling to simulate some of these benefits that we see in the real world data can really help drug companies be more successful and more effective. And so with this kind of data connectivity now flowing through our various two businesses, our genomics business, our data business, we now have the necessary infrastructure to leverage and to launch our third business, which is AI applications, and truly bring AI in the palm of physicians' hands to make the best decisions possible for their patients. One application that we have already launched in the US that is gaining significant traction is really around how do we run AI in the background to analyze and match patients for the appropriate inclusion and exclusion criteria across a network of hospitals that we already have launched in the United States. And so typically this process takes about 6 to 12 months to identify a clinical trial site, to open up that site in 6 to 12 months. Now with our approach in using AI to screen these patients in real time, we've negotiated with these sites to sign a standard budget, a standard rate card, and a central IRB to take that 12-month process and compress it to 14 days. And that compression is essential so that you can provide more treatment options to patients because it has to fit within the treatment window because patients cannot wait 12 months to go on a clinical trial. The second application in sort of providing better options for patients is to ensure patients are undergoing and following clinical guidelines. And so this operating system analyzes all of the data that the hospitals that we work with to uncover sort of certain clinical care gaps and identify and notify physicians around things that are already proven to produce benefit for their patients. And in everyday care, things happen. Patients are coming in and being referred, and we want to empower these physicians to make sure that these things are identified. And so oncology is one of our first areas that we've been focused on in the US. But the problem doesn't stop in oncology. We think about precision medicine and we think about these other diseases, but we really focus on identifying the appropriate diagnostic in each disease, whether that disease is neuropsychiatry, whether that's cardiology or radiology. We think about the diagnostic that is the most essential in driving the treatment decisions for those patients, and we organize the clinical history or the contextual information around that diagnostic to make it intelligent. And that, in our mind, is the approach that we can really pursue, not just in the US, but globally with partners like SoftBank to bring this to the Japanese market to have the most impact on patient lives. And so in closing, we really believe this approach, it can have the biggest impact, not only in the US, but we believe that the Japanese market is primed to really accelerate and really leverage these technologies in true partnership with the physicians that work in the Japanese market. And so I'll leave you with this patient story.
I did a first sequencing when we found out about my cancer, and that biopsy did not reveal any gene mutation. So we were going with that standardized chemotherapy. So I did 2 chemotherapy treatments. The first one lasted for 6 months. It was really hard. At first, it actually responded really well. The big tumor started shrinking right away. So after 3 cycles, we did another cycle of imaging. Unfortunately, the PET scan showed that the tumor stopped shrinking and another tumor was progressing. So it was a big shock. We couldn't explain why. A friend of mine who works at Tempus recommended that I do a second sequencing to learn more about my pathology and my tumor in particular. My oncologist ordered it, and I had a gene mutation that we didn't know about at first. The gene mutation that I have is called PIK3CA. It prevents certain chemos from entering into the tumors. There's actually a reason why that first chemo is not working. So I started a new chemotherapy. So with the second chemo, I think it's a little easier on my body. I'm still going through the tunnel week, but I'm stopped losing hair, and I think it's been more manageable for me. After a few cycles, we noticed that both tumors in the breast were shrinking. Finally, it was such a big relief. Because it was working, I was a candidate for a double mastectomy. I had double mastectomy, and then I continued the chemotherapy, and it's been almost a year. I think that if it was not for my husband, for my family and friends, I would have not made it. I am so thankful for Tempus because without revealing that I had this gene mutation called PIK3CA, I would have been kept in the dark, right? I would have not known what was going on in my body and why my body is not reacting to the chemo that's supposed to treat me. Thanks to Tempus, really, I was able to move forward and see the light at the end of the tunnel.
All right. And so these patient stories are essential, and this is why we're all here, but we're really excited to partner with SoftBank in making SB Tempus possible.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan.
You just saw the video. Thanks to Tempus service, there are many people who are actually living longer in United States. So the latest edge treatment for cancer is genomic testing. and developing drug based on the genomic testing and using those drugs for the cancer treatment is a kind of the way. However, 30% of the cancer patients are taking this genomic testing the day one after the hospitalized. But in Japan, in other hands, only 0.7%. So there are about 1.7 million cancer patients are found, and about 1.5 million genomic testing has been conducted. Japan is only 20,000 cases a year. That means even as of today, patients can only undergo a genomic testing after exhausting standard options. So you have to go through so many standard treatment after you are diagnosed as cancer, such as radiations or drug, and very end, the first time patients can take genomic testing. I don't understand why that is a kind of a process we have to follow, but this is a current process. But going forward, genomic testing should be the first things to do after hospitalized, like doing in United States. Not doing any genomic testing and start treatment is not really the right way to go through, from my understanding. After this panel discussion, we will have doctors who are expertise on genomic treatment. There are about 13 key hospitals in Japan for the cancer treatments. And these 13 hospitals, leading doctors that I was speaking to them, talking about this service, and this about 13 those hospitals members are very much supporting this idea. And some of them are joining us after this presentation for the panel discussion. And this genomic testing, not doing it in the very end, but actually bring it forward. And not only 20,000 cases a year, but we should do like 1 million cases a year. Then we believe that we will be able to become about the same level as United States, because within the 3 years course and in the beginning of the treatment, we do need to have a genomic testing like does in the United States. So we would like to make it 50 times from the 20,000 cases a year for the genomic testing. That's something that I hope for. And the Tempus is providing such genomic testing, and also not only this genomic testing, but also imaging data is available in hospital or any clinical data or the EMRs. All those information can be aggregated and do the AI analysis. That service is also available in the United States. As a result, there will be optimal or options for the treatment can be recommended to doctors so that doctors share with patients. And that's something that I would like to start in Japan. Hopefully, if we can start within this year, something that we can do from those 3 factors that we would like to start within this year. Like I mentioned earlier, in Japan, the hospitals in Japan, they have different types and formats of EMRs, and that's kind of closed door information. So for these key 13 hospitals in Japan who are leading cancer treatment in Japan, without changing their system, but using this Tempus adapter, that we'll be able to create the integrated database. So there will be no burden for hospitals. So with these key 13 hospitals, that's going to be already a great deal. And not only one key hospital, but even 13. Tokyo University's, Kyoto University hospitals, KOs, and there are 13 key hospitals for cancer treatment, and that's a big step that we'll be able to make this time, and that to be analyzed by AI. In addition, we would like to expand that to 300 hospitals to 500 hospitals so that we'll be able to cover 50% of the cancer patients in Japan can be someday analyzed in a common database, and that's something that we would like to realize in Japan sometime in the few years. I think we can do it because there will be no burden for hospital size. There will be no additional cost for hospital. There will be no technical effort that they have to do, they are all solved by adapter in free of charge to hospitals. So I believe this can be a popular service, and that's something that I am very much determined to do in Japan. And August the 1st is the expected start of operation this year. Capital is with 30 billion yen. And the investment ratio is going to be 50% from SoftBank Group and 50% from Tempus in United States. And in United States, there are services that are already provided. And first, those testing equipments and the system that are used in US is going to be used. And also, I mentioned the 13 king hospitals that for the first step. But not only that, but also 7.7 million cancer patient data can be utilized in Japan. So it's not starting from the scratch, but from the beginning, we'll be able to utilize those 50% of the cancer patients in United States data can be real-time used for analysis in Japan. So like stomach cancer is stomach cancer, lung cancer is lung cancer. And there are many Asians living in United States. Out of this 7.7 million, there are many Asians as well. And that data can be utilized from day one in Japan, which is a big first step. In addition to that, we will have a data from those key 13 hospitals in Japan integrated and analyzed by AI. So that's a rocket start that we'll be able to make. And the US is very much advanced and most advanced compared to the rest of the world. And this is the first time going outside of United States. And the first country next to United States is Japan. So US, 2,000 hospitals are already connected. So 50% of hospitals are already connected. And we would like to also make that happen in Japan as soon as possible. Not only the genomic data, but also imaging data, CT scans, MRIs, and also the pathology data or clinical or diagnosis. Those can be also available in real time thanks to adapter. So big data bases that can be from the day one utilized in Japan. So we believe we can integrate all the wisdoms not only in Japan, but also in United States, together with the healthcare professions. We believe we'll be able to achieve the advanced AI technology with AI medical expertise. Why AI? Why ChatGPT? Why Gemini? All of a sudden becomes beneficial for people. In the past 4 years, computing power became 1,000 times. Number of chips became 10 times, capacity per chip become 10 times, and also transformer and the AI model became 10 times in 4 years. So 10 times, 10 times, 10, so 1,000 times. And in 4 years, generative AI computing power became 1,000 times. And next 4 years, same things happens. So that's going to be another 1,000 times. And following 4 years, it's going to be another 1,000 times. And next 4 years, it's going to be another 1,000 times. So let me say that this is going to be the kind of case, even 2-3 years behind or something. But now it's already the medical test exam can be passed by AI. And if you imagine 1,000 times of such intelligence, and 1,000 times is 1,000,000 times, and 1,000,000 times of 1,000 times is 1,000,000,000 times. So by watching 3 Olympics games, AI capacity and capability become 1,000,000,000 times. So the medical exam level of the intelligence is going to be 1,000,000,000 times. That is ASI. And ASI, well, as AGI is the something similar or equivalent to human beings, and 10,000 times from there, not only medical, but also productions or logistics or in any industries and segments that I believe there's going to be 10,000 intelligence available. But speaking of medical sector, that's to be 1,000 times to 1,000,000 times to 1,000,000,000 times. you have to use it. You have to use this technology. You have to take an advantage of this technology to make sure that beneficial for the human being. People may scare that it is really a beneficial for human being, but I think at least those families who lost beloved members because of cancer, high blood pressure, or many diseases, that I believe that the AI will be able to reduce the people's sadness and save people's life. I think this is beneficial for human. That's something we have to use it. We have to use it. So medical science experts are here. We are experts in data science. Medical science and data science both. This is not the discussion of which is right or wrong, but the medical science and the data science, that to be fusion, integrated together, medical ASI world will be created. With the human's wisdom, there are many difficult diseases that are not being cured, and maybe with the technology's capability, we'll be able to save those lives. And also, we will be start having a life without health issues, and also staying healthy at any age, which is a great news for human. It may not be zero. Of course, it may not be zero, but still, we'll be able to reduce those. So even a little bit of a reduction of the sorrow is something that we should be aiming for. And for that, I believe that data science and medical science should be utilized. So information revolution is not leading human being to the disaster. I believe is leading to the people's happiness. We are seeing this AI, ASI, and AGI, but the biggest philosophy is that we want to bring happiness to people, and that's the reason why we are here to work on this. Thank you very much.